It's 8 a.m. Yeah. So we're gonna, yeah, no, it's fairly early. The sun has risen, so happy days. And no, I'm obviously I'm doing a project here where I'm investigating various projects within crypto, but with an emphasis on Degen culture. So the project's called Degen Generation, and I'm going to be dipping in and out of projects over the next, well, however long the series goes on, right? I thought, I saw that you have a foot in the Web3 filmmaking space, documentarian even, as I understand it. So I thought it'd be great to touch base and just get your position on what you think about vegan culture and filmmaking in Web3. And also I saw obviously that the tweet that ignited this connection was around your pursuit of, I think, was it OpenSea? There was some discrepancy with OpenSea and your collection.
Yeah,
I'd like to touch on that as well.
yeah, we can do that for sure.
But let's take
Um,
it from the top. Let's get a brief intro from you. And I think this call, I have a free Zoom set up here. So I think I've only got 45 minutes. So just
shouldn't take
we
that.
take it as we go. But yeah,
Yeah,
let's dive in, mate.
perfect. Well, my name's Kimani Okira. I'm the founder of Let Me Out Productions, which is we're a networked collaboration and branding. Very similar to the Bored Ape Yacht Club, except for we precede them on the market by 1 month. I wrote a paper called The Elmo Structure for Tokenomics, and I'll scale it all the way back. December of 2020, I am introduced to blockchain and non-fungible tokens for the first time. At the time, we were almost a year into the pandemic. My income was completely gone, and as a photojournalist covering National Basketball Association, I was being informed in the previous month that I was not going to have access to the product to fulfill my contract. My contract was photo based, and so I had to come up with an economic answer to everything that was happening. And I was tweeting about it, and one of my friends, I believe it was Micah, told me, "Hey, why don't you come in and check out non-fungible tokens on the blockchain and see if you can sell some of your shots that way." Now, back in December 2020, I know things have happened so fast because that was only 3 years ago. But back in December 2020, everything was so abstract when it came to non-fungible tokens, blockchain, all of that, and it took me months to understand what the purpose and the point of it was. And so for the first two, it was December 19th, the first day I checked out what non-fungible tokens were on the blockchain, and I was intrigued, but I didn't understand it. So it took me. I'm a cognitive linguist first and foremost, and so I approach everything with a depth of research and care regarding the information and the experience behind it. So it actually took me up until middle of February 2021 to wrap my head around. Oh, these are digital titles that are recorded on a notary service. Okay, so I got it snapped into place. Okay, so I can absolutely form digital titles for my photography to transact them on the market as non-commercial collectibles, which is what I need to do. That's how I stay compliant with National Basketball Association. I attended a seminar on Decentraland, which was hosted by a group called Metaverse, a big platform out of Singapore. And the seminar was 2 weeks, 5 days each week. And the seminar was just, what is an NFT? And it was a little bizarre because I made my little avatar, this little N64 GameCube style graphic avatar, and I went to the movie theater on Decentraland, and then it was just watching a Zoom call on screen. So I'm a pragmatist. I'm like, why couldn't I just watch the Zoom call? Did I have to go into the world and walk around with my 3D avatar? But it was still a good experience, and I went to almost every day of that seminar. And during that seminar, they were talking about all sorts of really interesting applications for non-fungible tokens, and what the predictions were in terms of their impact on the economy. And it came, one of the discussions was focused on deeds and how people could register or notarize their deed to physical property on the blockchain. And that spurred an idea in my head. Because in addition to the conversation about deeds, they were talking about fractional ownership of, all these interesting mechanics. And back in 2007, I had this is really right at the early stages of my media production career. I had this really rudimentary model for basically measuring the labor that goes into a film, and then distributing the ownership of that film based on the impact percentage that each labor creates. Back in the day, it was just 5 of us. We were trying to make a movie about aliens invading my hometown, and we'd already made a couple of things. And to that date, this is 2007, I had noticed that I put in a lot more. There's no shade to any of those other guys, but I put in a lot more work into the thing, so I didn't want to split everything equally. I wanted to measure the time that went in, and we'd split according to that measurement. There wasn't really a tracking system for that, and you could do spreadsheets, you could do SQL, but there wasn't permanent trustless. It was all single point. I tried to talk about that sort of model at various other stops in my career, like when I was a producer for Young Turks for a time there. None of these platforms are really about distributing ownership over the work product to labor. Okay, so when we get to February 2021, I'm coming out of that seminar, they're talking about deeds, fractional ownership, and I go ask my lawyer, my entertainment lawyer I've been working with for 10 years. I say, you know what? Can I write a deed to intellectual property? Can I? And we started exploring. Okay, you need fixed points, measurable distances, clear definition, and notary and notarization for to establish a deed to property. And yeah, you can write a deed to intellectual property. So I said, okay, these digital titles on the blockchain are those fixed points. The difference in serial numbers are the measurable distances. And now we can create, mind you, the language I'm about to say is something that we developed in late 2022. But we basically declare that intellectual property is a puzzle with a hard cap of pieces, and each piece is one of those digital titles. And when you do that, you have a networked collaboration across this intellectual property. And so I started writing a paper on it. February 2021, when I first started the paper, it was super abstract, really loose language. Nothing was too focused. But I vetted the paper with my main counsel. There's an intellectual property lawyer, international intellectual property lawyer that we talked to, and a securities regulator that worked for the Reagan administration. They were giving me so much great advice on how to avoid basically forming investment contracts with these puzzle pieces. So I published the paper on March 21st on Google Drive. It's not a Medium article or anything. It's just, you go to Drive, you hit publish, and you can share it. And remember, everything's moved so fast in this sector. Back then, the communities discussing this stuff they were small. So I didn't anticipate it would move that fast. So I published the paper on Drive. It's a 21-page paper. And 3 days after I published it, I minted the very first puzzle piece in our collaborative brand at Let Me Out Productions. Now, this was actually across from a prospect that we got into with Metaverse. I sent them an email and I said, hey, I'm really interested. I actually left out a big part of that. Metaverse is the firm that bought Beeple's 5,000 Days of Summer. I think there were 500 Days of Summer. One of those titles is accurate. Where he had basically 13 years of daily art pieces that he had put into one giant JPEG, and he sold that for $69 million at auction. It was a Christie's auction, I believe. and MetaPurse bought that piece. MetaPurse took that piece, and they basically fractionalized the ownership of that piece at 20 million equal parts. And they used those 20 million equal parts to form a blockchain called B20, where each coin in the blockchain represented a part of the picture. So it's like, okay, that's very interesting. That's exactly what we wanted to do all the way back in 2007. And so I reached out to him. I said, hey, what you did with that intellectual property of this giant JPEG, can we do that with the intellectual property of a brand, the intellectual property of a television show? And they're saying, hey, yeah, hit us up with your proposal. And I'm like, a $2 billion platform out of Singapore giving us a soft, a window of opportunity is huge. So I rallied the team together. And that was March 13th was actually the date that we started that rally. So one of our co-founders, her name's Erin, she signed on, we've been working together since 2017, but she signed on to this endeavor on March 13th, 2021. And from there, we added over 60 people from my network by the end of the month. And when I emailed MetaPurse on March 27th, the paper was published. We had the first few tokens minted to the blockchain for the collaborative brand of Let Me Out Productions, and our first product, which was Musical Bears, a Let Me Out Crypto Bears musical. Really exciting time. And from there, I just spent a lot of time building that product and kind of trying to poke into Decentraland once a week and tap into that community. They did not have Clubhouse on Android back in March, so I wasn't aware of the blockchain community on Clubhouse. So we got a great 3-month development window across from MetaPurse. They actually pulled out of that development window on June 22nd, 2021. But still, that just even having that interest can drive so much. But in May of 2021, I retired from sports media. So my service as a photojournalist to sports media platforms no longer offer that. I work for teams, but I don't work for media platforms specifically. And that was because of the rug pull of my contract that happened in November, December of the previous year, which that's what drove me to blockchain to begin with, that desperation to form an income, because my brother was missing at the time that I entered blockchain. He actually died on April 10th, homeless in People's Park in Berkeley. And so it's not a direct one. It's like the basketball team that I covered directly caused that, but they definitely disaffected any chance that we had to stabilize. And that was the second death of 2021. My uncle Glenn died in March, and my brother Kimani died in April. May comes along, I retire from sports media. So I retire my service to sports media platforms because I don't, access is a currency, and to have your access pulled and your income manipulated, and then your brother's dead a couple months later, it's just, you don't ever want to be beholden to that at all, ever. So I launched a new collaborative storytelling product. At the time, we had the network collaboration and Let Me Out Productions brand. And the network collaboration and Musical Bears and Crypto Bears musical, which actually paused because I launched that on the same time that we launched the network brand, but my brother died within a couple weeks, so I didn't much feel like singing the bear songs in the music. So we paused that, and in May I launched a new collaborative storytelling product called Press Pass. And Press Pass is something I've been working on since 2016, mockumentary style sitcom that is basically a fictional retelling of my career, just a hair under a decade of covering the worst professional basketball team at the time. So instead of insulting the team directly and insulting my colleagues directly, instead, you know what, we'll wrap it in a fiction and we'll go from there. And we had our development team from March through May, we put together a really strong pilot because that's what Metaverse was interested in, a flagship television product that would be greenlit through fractional ownership and community collaboration. And the collaboration is very simple, but it's very fun. The customer buys a non-fungible token, which is literally a piece of the intellectual property of season 1. They use that non-fungible token to register their own character into the canonical lore of this fictional sports documentary universe. They play a tabletop role-playing game to produce the canon. After the canon's produced by all these collaborators playing the role-playing game, all the collaborators can shoot their own memes, and those memes form the archive of the sports documentary. So our episodes and their advertisements use those memes, and every use of the meme pays the creator a bounty. And the memes would also be available as digital merchandise, official press pass digital merchandise. So every meme would have 1,000 units, and the creators would then have 3 market positions that they created themselves. So by buying the intellectual property, it's not an investment, $20 token. You don't buy the IP token to expect the price of that asset to go up after a certain condition is met. You buy that IP token because you love you're excited to collaborate in the experience. So create a character, role play the canon, shoot memes based on the canon. When the meme is created, there's 3 market positions created: potential use in an episode, potential use in an advertisement, and guaranteed use as a digital collectible as official merchandise for the show. So when I launched the product with a clip of me, a clip that we shot specifically for the token, but I performed as a character called Lensface, starting in 2016, September 2016, and I pretended to be a sports influencer that produced content as bad as the team. Naturally, nobody watched it, but I had a great time. I had a blast. And so that was the proof of concept for at least the underlying experience, to role play your character into the lore of professional basketball in our case. Our franchise is a sports super world, so we're not just doing basketball, but the main series is focused on basketball. And everybody wants to be somebody in pro sports. So not me, but
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting application of the technology, mate. With the Musical Bears project, and then even onto the Lensface, there seems to be, I assume you would have had to interact with various crypto communities. The Musical Bears project for me stands out as something that you would have to interact with probably Degens, or a special or specific type of Degen, like a creative artistic Degen. What's your experience been entering in conversations with those types of persons that might want to be part of the production or are looking for an opportunity to speculate? And you said there wasn't speculation built in here, but I'm assuming that it would have attracted those types of people as well, right?
So at times, the thing with that early market was people were looking for this sort of uniform speculative product, and we did not satisfy that at all. For example, in Musical Bears, the product itself is a collaborative release. So you buy a bear, you're able to. I sent you the link in the chat there.
Yeah, I'm checking it out now.
Now, some of my songs I'm pretty proud of. Some of them are really bad, but that's part of the experience. You buy a bear from the collection. Each bear is unique. You're able to curate, design, and price a limited merchandise kit for the official Musical Bears project. The merchandise is 8 pieces of physical merchandise, and we sell 1,000 units of each piece. And the creator, the bear keeper, as we call them, keeps 50% net profit per unit. So it's actually, again, we're all about collaborating on the market positions. Just that you don't buy a token to, as you said, speculate, as the DJs like to do. They speculate. They buy a token and they hold it to wait until the price increases to a certain point where they sell to somebody else. We would never satisfy it. We were built not to satisfy that sort of purchase premise. So they buy a bear, they do the merch kit design, they sing up to 1 minute song by shrinking their head down using a green screen filter over the mouth of the bear. They sing a song about their bear. It's supposed to be silly, supposed to be appropriate for ages 11 and up, and we just sequence all of these bears in a musical on social media. And then the third utility is that they get actually access to the template and they can make their own bear. So even to this date, there's only 42 bears in that collection because the entire purchase premise is that we're all collaborating on the actual art of the collection itself. And so the Degen community, they would like, the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which launched a month after the Let Me Out Productions collaborative brand and our musical bears product, they kind of set the standard for the speculative market. They had 10,000 apes, each ape was unique, and folks bought them for $200 on release, and then within a month or two, they were trading for multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I recall, and that's, I think that's part of the challenge, right, in bringing a creative project utilizing this technology is how do you embrace the Degens or satisfy a portion of, like, how the mechanism embraces the Degen culture, because I assume I've come to the conclusion that you have to kind of your project has to, embrace the Degen sort of psyche in order to get any sort of traction, even though you might not want that behavior on your assets, or
Well, we wanted the speculators to move to collaborators, and there, as we've discussed before, there's a difference between smart money and dumb money. And so we wanted folks to say, you know what, when I buy a bear, it's not likely that I'm going to sell that bear at a markup. But when I buy that bear, I can form these market positions with the bear in the official collaboration. And those market positions have the potential to be incredibly lucrative, and they're based on the merit that I'm adding to the collaboration, my specific merit. And so that's really what we wanted to set the behavioral standard as. But as I said, the Bored Apes, they kind of moved the market in one way, and we're this way. And when Press Pass released, I tried a little bit different tokenization model where we did a wide supply of a version 1 collectible, which registers the basic 2 kind of characters to the role play, and then we did a limited that's 530,000 version 1s. And we did an extremely limited supply of the version 2 collectible, which registers the more exclusive characters in the role play. So there's only 916 version 2s. So that's sort of how I tried to introduce this blue chip mechanic to the product, which would encourage the Degens to purchase the product and then participate. It didn't really trigger anything on the market, which is okay. We do want collaborators and not speculators in our work. The meme that I shot was a bookend meme based on the experience that I put together as that crappy influencer producing crappy content about a crappy team, and that sort of backfired. But it's interesting. I think it's going to age like cheese or fine wine, but it sort of backfired because people started thinking that was a proof of concept for the show itself. And I get it, but it was a proof of concept for the collaborator experience. The show itself is more of the flavor of it is a little bit of The Office, a little bit of Trailer Park Boys, and a lot of like an American 2010 style sports documentary. And by the time we get to May, that's when I actually hop on Clubhouse for the first time in late May, and we meet a variety of amazing communities. The NFTS.tips community was extremely welcoming and an interesting group to be a part of, and they were really discussing practical use cases and not really the Degen culture. But we touched on that, and there were there's other communities that I dipped into here and there. Lots of folks were being onboarded into blockchain. And then one community in particular, I'm sure we'll talk about, they had gone through a process that evolved from a clubhouse room about the European film market in late February to a room called Filmmakers in Web3 in late May when I first joined the room. And I give my presentation on the model about network collaborations and branding, products, services, and experiences. And I use I'm focused on the Let Me Out Productions brand and the Press Pass product, not the Musical Bears things. I was actually super sad about losing my brother. And almost immediately, there was some, I don't know how to put it. It was like, the host of the room responded to my first presentations with this really negative and antagonistic tone. So I stopped going there. And we focused on hosting our own rooms on Clubhouse, and we focused on the NFTS.tips community, as well as Black Dave's community or Marty's community, these other pioneers in collaborative branding and media using this tech. We scheduled our official drop for Press Pass on July 3rd, 2021. In early May, I welcomed in a man called Jacob Volksky he wanted to join our collective and learn how to do these network collaborations and be a part of the original one. And that turned out to be a big mistake. Between the group that I mentioned, the Filmmakers in Web3 room, and that man, Jacob Volksky, they had formed conjecture against our products that these network collaboration tokens were somehow investment contracts. Just for the viewers out there, an investment contract in the context of the United States is an asset that is expected to grow in value from the behavior of a central business or participant, an active participant is what they say. And so when we are transacting non-fungible tokens, the token itself and all of our products is not expected to grow in value. We didn't want people to speculate on the passive value of the token. So all of our collections are designed against it. The network collaboration of the brand, Musical Bears, and Press Pass. So what was interesting to me is that during that time, late May, throughout June, early July, between that Filmmakers in Web3 room and this man, Jacob Volksky, who turned out to be a very negative thing for our business, the public discussion in this small bubble of people started to form conjecture against our products that they were meant to perform as investment contracts or securities. And yeah, that was just not true. So that was quite unfortunate. So when our drop came around, that man, Jacob Wolfsey, kept on bringing up security law during the drop. We're sitting there talking about creating characters, role-playing, creating memes, and I'm finding myself having to defend, again, explain to folks what the difference is between network collaboration and investment contracts or a facility for investment. That actually killed the drop. It murdered the drop. And Volksky left the project the next day and then launched his own network collaboration and media production a few months later, which has since failed off the market, which is super funny. In full violation of non-disclosure agreement he signed and all that. I won't get into that drama. But since that point, we actually had so I stopped spending too much time in that Filmmakers in Web3 space and what it eventually evolved into. They launched their own network collaboration and brand in July, and really using a lot of the organizing principles that my paper put to market. And my auntie died in June. Metapurse pulled out of our prospect in June. My auntie Sylvia died in June. And our drop did not go well on July 3rd. So I I'm a neurodivergent person. I took a hit there and I had to take a break from marketing these things. And I returned to the market and I'm dabbling, I'm hearing people's projects, I'm spending time building community, but I'm not really marketing our stuff. And I returned to the returned to form and marketing our stuff in mid-September, and then my birth mother dies. I was born on crack in '89, and I was put in foster care 6 months old, kicked out the day I turned 18. And so I didn't really know my birth mother. I probably met her 4 or 5 times, but she died in late September. And then my granny died. My biological grandmother died in October. And one of my favorite dear uncles, Robert Earl, died in November. But even through those deaths, I had returned to form, trying to get the product sold and get collaborators into the various properties that we had, because by then the market was on fire. You know, that bull market from I want to say June through October 2021 was a magical time for many different projects. We didn't catch that magic, but we wanted to. So, in returning to that community, the filmmakers in Web3 Room had launched their endeavor, which they had titled the NFT Film Squad, and it was very curious because I come into one of those spaces in October, and the founder of that room has named themselves the architect of the entire economic sector. It made me very uncomfortable because not just it erased my work and claimed my work under their banner, but there was many pioneers in media production on the blockchain that come before us, going all the way back to officially on-chain 2014, and then sort of a soft chain approach all the way back to 1999. And all of these steps are important because they bring us to today. October
I just want to highlight we have 6 minutes left on this recording.
Okay.
So we can either schedule another follow-up or we can try to address the most recent tweet that I commented on with regards to OpenSea.
Yeah, so OpenSea, after 2.5 years of trade, on September 14th, 2023, we minted on March 24th, 2021, and on September 14th, 2023, I go to OpenSea and I find that our collaborative brand products, which are called company ownership tokens, were disabled for violating terms of service. And mind you, we've passed 2 audits with this platform regarding the terms of service and the potential for them being seen as investment contracts. So I was very surprised. They still, to this day, we're 2 months into this, they have not explained themselves, their action. I suspect it's because of conjecture formed against the title of the article, which is neither here nor there. But yeah, they disabled the company ownership token product, which again is a networked collaboration in a film studio brand. And they also subsequently, 3 weeks later, froze the shared storefront contract that we launched these tokens on. So I don't know if that freeze is permanent, but either way, both things, the disabling of our product and the freeze of the contract, are unreasonable restrictions of trade, which is a violation of the Sherman Act in the United States, antitrust violation. Because they didn't explain themselves, I have no idea what they're thinking in terms of our intersection with the SEC's framework for investment contract analysis and digital assets. We just don't intersect because the token itself is not an investment of money. It's a purchase of a collaborative experience. Each token is an artistically unique piece. I actually put over almost 100 hours of labor into digitally pixel crafting each piece of art in our company ownership token collection. I made 356 of them, and then our collaborators have I made 355 of them, I'm sorry. And we've had 5 collaborator contributions. And that's what we do. We call it catch and release. If you buy a token, some of our collections, and like Musical Bears and the Shirley Though and the company ownership tokens, you're able to contribute your own piece as part of the official collection. It's really cool, really cool utility. And when that piece sells, you get a commission, 50% commission of primary, 5% secondary. So we're still confused as to why those products were disabled. I have issued a cease and desist to OpenSea because really networked collaboration in the brand is the same thing Bored Apes is selling, and it's the same product that they're selling. Their products while not investment contracts, I want to be clear, did perform on the market as some sort of in a security-like performance, meaning that the Degens bought a token for $200 within 2 to 3 months. Some of them are selling them for $700,000. The gains that they created in that markup were not earned through merit. It was just a passive gain based on the strength of brand. So we designed our products against performing that way. And that's one of the reasons I think why we haven't taken off, but I think ultimately we're going to be just fine. Now, OpenSea is in a weird position. They're supposed to be an impartial peer-to-peer marketplace, not forming conjecture against products and then regulating that conjecture. They need to be regulating actual activity, behavior, proprietor messaging. That's all fine to regulate, but what they've done is not impartial action. So we're going through appropriate channels to try to get our products enabled, because that is history. It's part of the history of the entire sector here in collaborative branding, network collaborations, etc. But we're also trying to get the shared storefront contract unfrozen and the wallets that have already launched collections on them to be grandfathered into that contract. So that's the current state of things. We're waiting on response. We're waiting to figure this out. In the meantime, we still have our Musical Bears product, and we still have the Press Pass product active, so we're still able to transact and add folks to the collective. But the core product is the network collaboration of the brand. So,
all right, and we're down to the last 60 seconds now. So I'm just going to ask you to deliver a message to camera to the Degen generation, or what you interpret it as.
Yeah, I think folks are really excited to join these collaborations and see the value of their purchase grow. But I also want to encourage people that without contributing a direct merit, there's no reason for that asset to grow in value. So I guess that's my primary message: is collaboration is an activity. so it's active.
So the ROI is the collaborative outcome of everybody's creative input, essentially.
Yeah, and that output should be commissioned, because if it creates market value, then the creator should receive a commission of that market value. That's more than appropriate.